Right, so let's start with today's session. What I'll do is that I will be covering about object identification today, that how Selenium works. How do you identify objects with Selenium? Right, so let me create a new Java project over here on day 4. Fine, and what I will do is that I will uh, tell you first of all how to identify the objects. Okay, look, the thing is, uh, I had told you that day as well, I'll repeat it today. You need to go into the HTML code of the website in order to identify the objects. Look, Selenium works on the page source. Okay, for example, if I go to the website bbc.com, right, and if you have to automate this website and if you want to click somewhere on this website, you have to extract the objects, then you need to go into the page source, because Selenium works on the page source. And in the page source, you have got in HTML tag and attributes. For example, this is an input tag, and with input tag there are various attributes available. Okay, this is a button tag, and with the tag name there are various attributes available. So with the help of these tag names and the attributes, you identify the elements. Right, I told you that day as well, you need to install Firebug in Firefox to actually investigate the page source in a better way. Okay, you can just go to Google and type Firebug Firefox, and what will happen is that you'll get the first link. You can go out here and add Firebug to Firefox. You will see, make sure that you open this in Firefox because it's a plugin for Firefox. Once you add it, you will see an icon over here for Firebug. Okay, you click on this icon, and you can click on the arrow. There is an arrow over here in this particular window. Right, go to the HTML view, click on the arrow, move the mouse over elements. You will be able to see the source code of the elements. This is just like object_spy, which we use in you can say these are just like object_spy which we use in Selenium, sorry, QTP. Okay, right, now you can also investigate the page source in other browsers. Right, you can open up Chrome, right, and in Chrome, suppose you want to investigate, you go to any web page, right. I go to, suppose, this website, and sorry, I go to Eclipse website, and on Eclipse website I want to investigate any element. So on Chrome, if you want to investigate an element, you right click on it. For example, this donate button I want to investigate, right. So you right click on it, you will see the inspect option. You select that and you will have the element selected. Okay, there is an arrow over here as well in Chrome Inspector. You can click on that arrow, move the mouse anywhere on the page, and you can investigate the element. This is similar to Firebug. Okay, and in IE I told that you have got IE Inspector, right. You just hit the F12 of keyboard. You will have this window coming up, right. In this window there will be a small arrow icon over here. Okay, you click on this arrow and move the mouse anywhere, you will be able to investigate. Okay, suppose I click on this arrow and move my mouse, you can investigate the page source. But the thing is, you don't have to investigate the page on every browser, right, because the page source remains the same across all the browsers. Alright, what we do is that we investigate it on one browser and use it across the other browsers as well, because the browsers might be different, but the objects inside the browsers and the page source remains the same always. It's always the case. Right, now let me take a simple example of how elements are categorized, right, and what are their you can say tags and what are their attributes. Okay, right, I'll just open this Excel file. Hold on. Right, look, this is a small HTML Excel file which I have made. These are the elements which are there on any website. Any web-based application can have these elements. Okay, button, text field, radio button, checkbox, link, text. Okay, right. Corresponding to every element, you have a tag name in HTML, and there are some mandatory attributes and some optional attributes. Right. Let me explain you in this way. For example, hold on. For example, if you go to the, just a minute, just let me log out, and if you go to the home page of Gmail, let us take very simple example. Okay, I don't want to complicate things by taking too difficult examples or something, right? So let us take a very simple example. This is the login page of Gmail. Fine. On, hold on, just a minute. Yeah, on the login page of email, you have this text field. Enter your email. All the text fields, no matter which application it is, all the text fields will have the input tag. Alright, and this tag will have number of attributes associated with it. Okay, this is the input tag, and this input tag has number of attributes associated with it. And in the Excel file also, I have given the text field. Text field has the input tag. Now, input tag will always have this attribute. Type will be email or type will be text. Okay, so out here type attribute is there, email, or it can be text. But or out of all these attributes, this attribute will always be there. If you talk about any button, this is the next button. Okay, it's got so many attributes. The tag name is again input, but type equals to submit attribute will always be there with the button. Alright, so in case of a button, the tag name is input. This is the mandatory attribute. Type will be submit or type will be button. Fine, text field is there, radio button, checkbox. All these four components, button, text field, radio button, checkbox, all of them have the same tag name, input, but the type attribute varies in them. Okay, right. And for a link, if you talk about any link on a web page, for example, this is a link, find my account. This link has an anchor tag A. Okay, this anchor tag will have attributes like class, href. Alright, this href attribute will always be there with the link. Link will always have anchor tag, and href attribute will always be there. This will point towards the URL which will open when you click on the link. Href attribute holds the URL to which the link points to. Okay, so for a link, the mandatory attribute is href. If you have a text on the page, then text can be categorized by anything. Text can be in a division, span, h1, h2, para. There can be any tag for text. You cannot generalize text to a single tag like we have generalized the other elements. Okay, for a drop down. Okay, for example, in this page, this is a drop down. A drop down will always have a tag name known as select. Okay, there is no mandatory attribute for drop down. Alright, but the tag name would always be select. For an image on the page, okay, for example, I'll again go to bbc.com. Alright, for any image on any web page, for example, this is the image over here. Okay, if I look at this image, okay, it's coming up as a link. Just hold on. Okay, it's not displaying image. Image is coming from CSS over here. Just a minute. Yeah, this is a This is the image. You see that? The image is always having the tag name img. Alright. And source attribute is always there. It represents the URL from which the image is loading. Alright. So for an image on a web page, the tag name would always be img, and there will be a mandatory attribute source which will tell you the URL from which the image is loading. So these are the elements, their tag names and their mandatory attributes. Okay, right. And there are few attributes known as optional. They might or might not be present. These attributes are majorly there can be some other attribute as well, but majorly they are name, ID and class. Okay. If an element has got name, ID or class, it becomes really easy to identify it. Okay, but if it is not having, then you have to use some other technology, not technology, but some other mechanism to locate the element. But it is not mandatory that every element will have a name, ID and class on a web page. Anybody having any questions, please let me know. Okay, if you have any questions. Right, what I'll do is that I'll copy this identifying Excel file into your day 4 project, so that when you download the code you will have this Excel. Now how do you identify and write the script? Fine, this is fine. This is just a theoretical thing that these are the elements and these are the attributes. But how do you actually identify the elements and how do you actually write the code? Okay, right, fine. So, okay, I'll share you on Skype. The download link for code is also in your account. After you log in into your account, under your batch ID, you can download the complete code made in the class. Okay, right. Now, if you talk about Selenium, right, that day I had told you that you can actually import the documentation of Selenium in Eclipse, right? So over here, if I open the documentation, then in Selenium we have a web element interface. I told you about this. Okay, this interface represents a generic HTML element. Don't confuse it with web element of QTP. It is different. Okay, right. Now in Selenium everything is a web element. All these objects I've talked about, button, text, radio button, checkbox, all of them are known as web elements. And this web element in the documentation of Selenium is actually having few functions which can be applied to any element on the page. For example, get text is displayed, or click on the element, clear the value of the element, get the location of the element. Right. So how do we do that? Let me take up a very simple example, okay, of the class Gmail. Let me try to go and enter my user ID, click on the login button and try to automate this. Alright, fine. So out here, if I write the plain old code, that is web driver, driver is new Firefox driver. Okay, you'll have to import. I'm using 2.53 version of Selenium. I'm not using 3.0 because 3.0 is a little unstable. It is in the beta version. Okay, in case of 3.0 you have to put an exe file for Firefox as well. Okay, so you import everything, you import WebDriver as well, and then go to gmail.com. Fine, and on gmail.com I'm not able to understand you. Sachin, I am not able to understand you. Yeah. Yes. That is a no. That is a text field only. A Jax has been applied to the text field. It will have the same. Yeah, it will have the same input tag only. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So over here, you go to Gmail, and on Gmail, suppose let me open the web page. You have to enter your username. Okay. So if you investigate this email ID field, it's an input tag, and we are lucky that it is having an ID, and it is having, look, it is having an ID, and it is having an attribute known as name as well. If an element has got ID or name, okay, it becomes easy to identify it, right? So you give the command driver dot find element. Okay, now what is driver dot find element? If you go to the documentation of Selenium into the frames view, and if you scroll down, you will see the WebDriver interface, right? In the, if we consider on any, how many, look, there is nothing like that, Pradeep. It depends on the application. Okay, it depends on the application. You cannot generalize this. Sometimes we have applications in which all the elements have got ID. Sometimes we have applications in which now no element has an ID. Right? So you cannot generalize stuff. Okay. Now out here, this is a interface WebDriver, and in the interface WebDriver, you have got a function known as find element. Okay, this finds the first web element using the given method. Okay, it accepts the argument of the class known as by. Right, by class has got mechanisms to locate elements. Right, it's got methods like you have to identify with class name, CSS selector, ID, link text, name, partial link text. Okay, these are the various identification mechanisms, Exparte. So we'll study about them. Right, so you need to write over here driver.find element by which criteria. All the elements or all the functions in the by class are static in nature. Okay, all the fields are static. Okay, so you can directly call them with the name of the class. By which mechanism you want to find the element? I'll say find the element by the mechanism email ID. The ID of this field is email. Fine. Okay, and the WebDriver interface, if you look at it again, right, the find element function, it accepts the argument of the by class and it returns you web element corresponding to that element. Okay, the web element object it returns. For example, web element email is this. What do you want to do with this email field? Okay, you can use your type of function, whatever you want. For example, email.send keys hello will actually type inside this text field. If I write email.getLocation.x will give you the x coordinate of that element of the email field. Okay, sorry, not string but integer. You can print the value of x. Okay, right. So if I run this code, very simple example, many of you must have done this earlier, but I am starting it from the very basic. Right, so it goes out here and see it types in hello in the email field. Right, and in the console it will also give you the X coordinate of the email field. 00 on the page, or the 00 coordinates on the page are at this location, top left side. This is 0x, 0y, x increases over here and y increases over here. In mobile also it is the same thing. Okay, right. Now there are very many questions which many people they ask me at this point, that fine, what if there are two elements on the page with the same ID? What if there are two elements on the page having the ID email? Then what will you do? Look, first of all, on a web-based application, there should not be duplicate IDs. If there are duplicate IDs, you should tell your developer and you should ask him to correct those duplicate IDs and to make them unique. But if still they are duplicate, then what Selenium does is that when you write driver.findElement command, okay, it scans the page from the top left to the top right side and it goes down. Okay, it goes down, and if you have got two elements on the page, okay, these two elements have the same ID. Suppose there is one element out here and one element out here which have the same ID. Then Selenium will use the first one and it will move forward. It will ignore the second one. What if you want to use the second one? There are ways to do it. We'll talk about it later on. Okay, if you look at the documentation, find element function also says that it finds the first element using the given mechanism. Okay, right, the first element, right. So now what you need to do, you need to write a driver.findElement again and again. For example, if I want to click on this next button, this next button has a ID. It's also got the name attribute. Let's use the name, sign in. Okay, what I'll do is that I'll write over here web element button equals to driver.findElement by the name of the button, sign in. Okay, and button dot click. You click on the button. Alright, so when you run this code, so everything falls under web element. Okay, right, and if you run this code, you will see that it will enter and click the next button and you will see this error message. Okay, right, fine. So instead of find element by ID, can we use find element? Yeah, you can use anything. It should be a valid property. Okay, it should be a valid property. You can use anything. There is no hard and fast rule. Right. Now what happens is that you extract the element on this line and then you use it on this line. Instead of writing two lines, you can also write a single line. You can write, and this is what we do practically, driver.findElement by the name. This will extract the web element dot click. Okay, so the execution starts from the left to the right side. First, this command is executed, the web element is found, and on that web element, the click function is fired. Right. Similarly, for the email also, you could do the same thing. Driver.findElement dot send keys. You can write directly, and this is what we are going to do. So this is the easiest way. If an element has got an ID, if it has got a name, it's the easiest way to identify the element. But not every element will have an ID or a name. For example, if you talk about this text on the top, suppose I have to extract this text. If I investigate this text is simply inside the tag name h1. It opens here, it closes here, and in between this tag the text is present, and this h1 tag has got no attribute. It is a stand-alone tag. It's got no attribute. So how do we go forward and identify the element out here? Not every element is going to have an ID or a name, right? Okay, so to identify this we have to use different strategies, and one of them is known as Exparte. Okay, and XPaths are of two types. There are two types of XPaths. One of the types is known as the complete or the absolute XPath, and the other type is known as the partial XPath. Okay, there are two types of XPaths, complete XPaths and partial XPaths. Alright, and what we use, I'll tell you. Let me talk about XPaths now. Now basically what is an XPath? Right, everybody has a name. You have a name. Okay, that name identifies you. Right, similarly XPath is something which identifies the element in a unique way. Okay, it's like not the name property. I'm not talking about the name property. It is similar to every person, like every person has a name. Every element will have an XPath. Alright, fine. So how do we use XPaths? How do you identify the elements with XPaths? Let's talk about that now. I'll open a notepad. Fine. And look, there are two types of XPaths. Let me talk about complete or absolute XPaths right now. Fine. Look, this is the text on the page. This text is inside the h1 tag. Okay, this h1 tag, ultimately everything is inside the HTML tag. This is the root tag of the complete web page, the complete document. Right, inside this all the tags are lying. Inside the head tag, HTML tag, there are head and body tags. Inside the body tag we have the h1 element. So we start building the XPath like this. That is, there is a HTML tag, inside it there is a body tag. So we have to traverse down like this till we get the h4 tag, sorry, h1 tag, which is representing the element. Okay, so right, so inside the body tag you have got many tags parallel to each other. You want to go inside this division because this division is holding the h1 tag in the end. Right, so you will write slash division. Inside this division you have three divisions parallel to each other. Okay, right, so inside the main division, which is this one, you have got three divisions parallel to each other, and I want to go inside the second division because the element is inside the second division. Right, so you will write over here slash div2. Inside this division there are three divisions. Go in the second division. Inside the second division again you have got two divisions which are parallel to each other. I want to go inside the first one because the first one holds h1 tag. Okay, so you will write over here slash division. There is no need to write 1 like this because if you don't write anything, by default it takes 1. Okay, there is no reason to write 1 like this. By default it is 1, but if you want the second or the third parallel division, then you need to give the number, and inside it you have the h1 tag. So this is how you build the XPath. How do I know it is in the second division? You know it is inside the second division because if you investigate this element, you see that you can clearly see the second division has been expanded and h1 tag is somewhere inside this second division. You got my point? Right? Okay, fine. Now out here, just a minute, somebody was asking a question. No, right. Okay, out here, uh, you cannot use this kind of XPath regularly. The reason is that if something changes in between, mostly at the root of the page, then all your XPaths will be changed and the complete, you'll have to change all the XPaths in the application. Right. And you don't have to calculate them manually as well. There is a tool available. Okay, there is a tool available known as FirePath. It is a add-on which installs on top of Firebug. So make sure you have got Firebug installed and then you install FirePath and you type FirePath Firebug on Google. Search for it, go to the first link, make sure you open this in Mozilla, fine, and add it to Firefox. Once you add it to Firefox, right, you will have this FirePath icon generated inside Firefox. Otherwise it will not be there. Fine. So now if you go to this FirePath and check the option generate absolute XPath, check this, and if you move your mouse over any element, you will get the absolute XPath of that element. Okay, if I use this absolute XPath and if I go to my code over here and after going to Gmail, if I type driver dot find element by the XPath, you specify this XPath, okay, dot get text. Get text function will give you the visible text on the web page. Okay, and you take it in a string text and you print it. Alright, and when you run the code, this will go and print the text of that particular element. Okay, hold on. You see that it has printed, but we refrain ourselves from using these XPaths because if something changes at the very root of the document, then all the XPaths will change. What we do practically is that we use partial XPaths. Now what are partial XPaths? A partial XPath will always start from a double slash. Okay, partial XPath will always start from double slash. If I write double slash star, what does this mean? This means that all the elements on the page, this XPath will represent all elements on page. If I write double slash A, okay, right, A is the tag name for the link. Okay, so double slash A will represent all links on the page. Okay, right. Now out here in Firebug, if you go and uncheck the option generate absolute XPath, this will give you a partial XPath. For example, if I investigate this email field, it will give you a XPath like this. Ignore the dot in front of it, don't take the dot. Take this XPath and this is the XPath. Double slash star. This means that out all the elements on the page. Basically, I am saying out of all the elements on the page, get me the element whose ID is email. Okay, right. I can be more specific in this. The tag name is input for this text field. I can write like this as well. Both of them are valid. I can write like this, double slash input. That means out of all the input tags on the page, get me the tag with the ID email. So either you can use this or you can use this. You can use anything. If I go into my code and I comment this code for the email, and if I simply type over here driver dot find element by the XPath, okay, and I give any XPath, I give the top one, right, dot send keys hello. So when you run this code, this will simply go and print hello inside the text field. You see that? Fine. Output is same, but the way you have identified the element, it is different. Okay, right. Now, if I go to suppose this page and this is the text field, fine, you can get the XPath of this text field. If I want to get the XPath for the add to Firefox button, I get this XPath. Now, how is this XPath calculated? This is the XPath for this add to Firefox button. Fine. Look, what Firebug does is that it starts the XPath building process from this link. This link has got no ID, so it jumps one step above to this para tag. Okay, this link you can relate it over here. This para tag has also got no ID. Okay, this is the para tag. So it jumps one step above into this division. This is that division. This division has also got no tag, so it jumps to this division, no ID, right? So it goes over here. So it keeps on traversing till the time it finds this para tag having the till the time it finds this division tag with the ID add-on, okay, and it builds the XPath like this. So it actually never goes to the root of the document HTML, and it finds the nearest element with an ID and starts building the partial XPath from there. Okay, so the chances of, if the page is changed, the chances of getting the XPath changed are less in this case. Okay, rather than we building the XPath from the very root of the document. Right. Now, what if there is no element with an ID? It started with this anchor tag, right? This is the anchor tag A, right? It started with this tag and it kept on traversing above till the time it found a division with this ID. But what if it could never had found, like what will happen in that case? In that case, it will make a complete XPath. For example, on the Gmail page itself, right, the login page of, hold on, just a minute. Yeah, on the login page of Gmail itself, this is the text, right? If you look at this text will always give you the complete XPath because there is no element between the H1 tag and the HTML tag which has an ID. There is no element. Okay, so eventually the complete XPath is made. Alright, so this is about XPaths. You can also make your own customized XPaths. I'll tell you about that. But the thing is, the crux is, you have to use FirePath. That is the first thing. And secondly, we can use CSS selector as well. I'll tell you. Hold on. Right. You can make the script on one browser and you can execute it on any browser. Because these elements, XPaths, they remain the same. Page source remains the same. I can run it on Chrome as well. I can set the system property for Chrome. Okay, I can initiate the Chrome driver instead of WebDriver this time. And when Firefox driver. So instead of Firefox driver, I have initialized Chrome driver, and when I run this script, this will open up Chrome, take you to Gmail, and do the same thing. Okay, I never did anything. I never wrote a different piece of code. So the browser might vary, but basically the implementing code is the same. Alright, fine, because everything is implementing the WebDriver interface. All the driver classes will have the common function. I hope you understood my point. Right. Anybody with any questions? Anyone with any questions? Right. So if I open up the schedule, let me check whether I have left something or not. Out here you have, okay, I've covered these points today. Okay, web element interface, and I have also talked about XPaths. Okay, I have not talked about Firefox profiling. I will be talking about it in coming time, and complete and absolute. So basically I covered a lot of things today. Right, I'll stop here. Okay, there is no need